Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome to the G.R.I.N.D. Simon Arias here. Get ready, it's a new day. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the G.R.I.N.D. And I have my friend, the man, the myth, the legend, the sharpest man in Pittsburgh. Look at this man, all sharp and crisp. He dresses this way for breakfast. My man, Bobby Delucia, Mr. Delucia, who is also a veteran. This is going to be the first time that I've been able to be privileged to have a veteran on so far, which is what I wanted to get out there for what we do. But not only are you a veteran, but you're also an entrepreneur and a great person all the way around. So I just want to introduce some folks to you. So why don't you, I know, but we got to tell these folks, tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from and all that stuff.
Well, sure. Number one thing is I'm a veteranpreneur. I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Okay? Yeah, I'm from the north side of Pittsburgh and grew up with Allegheny High School. So went through that process, and after a few years, right after graduation, actually, I got a greetings letter in the mail from the U.S. Army saying you've been inducted into the military. Please report on.
We want you.
Yeah. So anyhow, my whole family served in the military, so I was kind of excited.
Oh, your whole family?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My mother was WAC, which is Women's Air Corps, and my father was in the Marine Corps. My uncle in the Marine Corps, my other uncle served in the Army, and my grandfather served in the CB. So I come from a pretty good military background.
Right. My grandmother's whack, but she's just wacky. I tell her, boo-boo. She's just crazy. I don't know if she's part of the whack. Okay, so then you went away for a little while, didn't you? You did some traveling with the military. You ended up.
Yeah. Well, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training. Then I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for Military Police Academy. So after graduating that, I went to Travis Air Force Base at a Nike site and did security at the Nike site with Sentry dog handlers. So that was my service there. And that's when I got orders right after that for Southeast Asia.
And how long were you in Southeast Asia?
I was
Is that where you spent the majority of the time?
Yeah. When I got deployed, I went there in January, right during the Tet Offensive, too. I got there right when it was a little hostile. So, and I was there all the way through 68, and I got back in November.
So we're open on this thing. So, they're already broken into, they could, if you could say shit if you want, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Okay.
I think, do you have any stories that stick out to you? I know there was a funny one you told me before. I think, didn't you save somebody's something in your sock?
I don't know how funny that was.
In his sock?
Yeah, I don't know how funny that was.
Funny for me, not funny for him.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You.
But, some of these things that, what you don't understand is there's combat soldiers, and then there's other combat soldiers, or ones that, the enemy, if you will, and then there's the enemy you don't know about. It's like, first responders who are police officers and so forth, and they get to a scene, and obviously they don't want to be captured. If there's somebody there, so you got to be careful about those kind of things. So,
your business, you own your own business.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about when did you start that? I think you transitioned in that. Was it in the 80s?
Yeah. Well, no, it was a little sooner than that.
Okay.
I got back from Southeast Asia. I wanted to had aspirations of following my military police role. CIA, FBI, something like that. So I took a civil service test, and I thought that I'd get called sooner or later. So in the meantime, I had a wife and I had a little baby daughter, so I wanted to make sure I could support them, so I started driving a taxi cab.
Okay.
So
where at? Here in Pittsburgh?
Right here in Pittsburgh. Yellow Cab, actually. It was the only cab company in the city until I came along. Mm-hmm. But, that went on for a year or so, a couple years, and, I did get called by the state police, but when I found out what they were making versus what I was making, I said, I'm going to hold up a little bit, maybe Secret Service will notice me or something like that, but that didn't happen. So here we go, fast forward, and starting to drive one cab. now I own over a couple hundred vehicles altogether.
So tell us a little bit about that process. Going from one to a couple hundred vehicles, and how long would you say you've been in business?
Well, I incorporated in 1985. Okay. So 1982 is when I bought my first stretch limousine, and I started to Sheridan in Granbury because that's where they built the hotel.
Same name?
Yes,
as you have today, Star Limousine.
And the reason that I called the name, I didn't know what I was going to call the company at first, but I had a friend that had the contract with the Civic Arena, and next thing I know, I'm doing celebrities. So
stars.
I started doing a lot of celebrities. Kenny Rogers. I could go on about 15 or 20 different ones along the way, and I just started growing from there. And I had another car, and then I bought a van to shuttle people back and forth from the airport. And I just kept growing the business. And then I started diversifying that business by doing different things. Limousine service, taxi cab service. Eventually got into the paratransit service, which I'm doing now. And now we're getting involved in some other new technologies. They're making the transportation space even more entertaining and successful, if you will.
Did you ever think it would have exploded like that, when you got your first one? I mean, is that something that you saw, one day I'm going to have a couple hundred of these things and different branches of it, or was it kind of just putting one foot in front of the other? No.
I knew what I wanted to do and what was going to happen, and I still do today. I'm going to do the same thing with these vet cycles that I'm pulling together now that I did with the cars back in those days. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. People need to get from point A to point B, and all they need to be is comfortable with that. If you can make it cost effective for them. And that's why, everybody looks at Uber as being, somebody's going to put the limousine taxi cab people out of business. I don't see it that way at all. To me, it was an exciting way. I turned that into my favor, okay? Because most taxi cab drivers, they don't want to go on short trips anyhow. They wanted airport trips, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they did. They didn't do inner-city transportation. That's when I designed Classy Cab. Classy Cab came in and started taking that short trip business that the other cab drivers didn't want.
Okay.
And they started getting a lot of business. And again, in the taxi industry, it's regulated. It has a metered rate. And they work a lot on tips. Well, if you're going to be picking up and dropping off and you're doing a lot of time, it's much better from a tip perspective as it would be going to the airport and dropping off and sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, or waiting for a plane to come in and then getting a trip back.
And so now you're starting to transition into doing something else. I know you're, I don't know exactly how old you are. I know you're a couple years older than me.
Yeah, just a couple.
So what I love about you, other than you outdress me, is you're still thinking about what your next move is. A lot of people that are your age, they're already looking at, hanging them up or not doing anything, kind of not pushing forward. What I love about you is that you're youthful. You still got energy. You're dressing sharp. You're moving around, but you're still ambitious and hungry on, all right, what's next? Right. What's the next thing next? So what's this next venture you got going on? How much you share as much as you want or little as you want about what you got going on now?
The first thing I like to mention, I did a succession plan. I planned for an easy exit to my company. In other words, I have a couple boys that are in the business. I have my daughter that was in it originally. So I wanted to give them something and stay in the background and make sure that company is successful, because to me, that's my 401k plan. I always have reinvested my money in my own business. And I went from...
Let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. That just made me want to grab that because, I think that is one thing that has stuck out to me of all the fellow entrepreneurs that I've been able to be around and meet, and some that I call friend, is that we all share the ones that are successful. It seems like we all have that. We just put our money back into our own business, put your money back into your business, put your money back into your business. Tell me a little bit about what you mean by you put it back into the business, and what you would recommend to others, other entrepreneurs, other people starting up businesses. We have a lot of people in business, that listen in on here. What advice would you give to a new, up and coming entrepreneur, somebody working for themselves, building something, about specifically investing the profits or investing things back into your business?
Yeah. Well, some of the things you have to keep in mind is, when you're young and you're energetic and you want to do something in a certain field, a lot of times you get sidetracked and you start doing things that, you're not an expert at. For example, I started a patching company one time with roofing and stuff. I knew nothing about that, right? But it was just something a little bit different. Then I got involved in some vodka business with some lawyers that wanted me to go over to Russia, which I did, by the way. And I thought that would be something, but always kept coming back to transportation. So my advice would be, when you find a certain thing that you're really passionate about,
stay in your lane.
Stay in that lane.
Stay in your lane.
Diversify. Get into different areas of that, like I did. Limousine, taxi cab, paratransit. It's all transportation related. It's all in that space.
Absolutely.
And that's what's made me successful.
Love it. So what about the reinvesting aspect of it? A lot of people I see that aren't as successful, they'll make some money and instead of putting some of it back into the business or a lot of it back to grow it, they'll spend it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So talk to if you were teaching on this, what advice would you give on reinvesting and why to reinvest into your business?
Well, reinvesting in your business is securing your future. And when you have kids in the business and they're involved in the business, you want to make sure that they're successful as well. And this is what I teach them. I teach them, listen, guys, don't let anybody tell you can't do this. This is something that you can't. There's no such thing as not being able to build this business. All you have to do is have that determination, have that passion for it, and take the money that you make from it and reinvest. We buy a limousine, and a couple of years later, it's out of style. So what do you got to do? You got to buy a new one. You got to have the best and the nicest. I mean, that's what people are paying for. You're not paying for some old limousine. You see a lot of them running around. You got these, you get drivers once in a while think they're, want to start their own business. And what they do is they find out from you. They learn from me. Then they turn around and go out and buy their own. But what they fail to realize is there's a lot of things that go in. It
ain't just driving the cars. No. Yeah, it ain't just having a nice limousine. There's a lot that goes into that
for sure.
aspect of business that you don't see.
There's accounting, there's legal, there's regulations, there are all these different things that you have to be involved in order to make it a success.
So you've been in business officially, would you say,
since
35
years now.
35 years.
Yeah.
What advice would you give outside of reinvesting into your business for people that are building a business? What advice, would you give them? I don't know if it was always smooth for you, if you ever had any obstacles.
No, it's not always been smooth. But one of my advice again is don't quit. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Don't let anybody deter you from that. If you've got the passion for it, just find out a way. Find out a way to make it work instead out of reasons why it won't. That's the problem that most people have. I tell my kids the same thing, listen, because they come up, my kids are in their 40s now, and they're starting to be, real mature and starting to really take over the business, doing a great job, by the way. So, I just got to make sure that they stay focused on that and that they grow that business the way that I grown it. So I'm still involved in not in day-to-day operations, but I'm involved in the success and the new technologies because now we have a new era.
What do you mean by we got to focus on how things can work versus how they can't work? Right. What do you mean by that? You think a lot of people get trapped in business in their mind of these are all the problems, these are all the obstacles, or this isn't possible, these things aren't good, versus sticking with there is a way. We just got to find a way, being relentless. What advice would you have on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, everybody tells you it won't work because they want to give you something that, from their opinion, they'll give you all the bad side of it. And listen, everything is bad in business. Everybody has their struggles, but the rewarding
everybody
part,
got their struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just them, that individual. Exactly. We all got them.
And if you look at something on the negative side all the time, or you listen to what people tell you it can't be done, well, then you won't go anywhere. Sometimes things happen that make you move in a different direction. And that's all. It's not quitting, because when you quit, you lose. Everybody knows that.
Right. How about handling any obstacles that come along and adversity on the way? Me and you have talked on the side about, these ones stole my idea and they wanted to come, and do the same thing as me, and then they would fail out, not be able to do, what you've done. But it has to be trials, tribulations, of things in business all the way around, from maybe employees, that quit, or somebody didn't show up, or, growing a business, reinvesting the money back into the business immediately and not having all the money up front, because you got to keep pouring it into your business. What other things pop up to you that would be applicable, you think, for people to grab from your experience of, here's what it takes to be successful in business in general? One of them we heard is reinvesting into the business. Mm-hmm. Another one that we heard was not quitting, not giving up, not buying into to the reasons why not, and buying into the reasons of why you can. What other things would you add to giving advice on, getting a business rolling?
Mm-hmm. I would look into technology, because things have changed. A revolution of technology has really stepped things up. And that's all businesses. That's not just the transportation industry. It could be the recording industry, as you know, all different types, the food delivery industry. I mean, everything has changed, and technology has changed that. So my advice would be is to stay up on the technology. Be cool about it. Know what's going on. Don't be afraid of technology, because it's just going to enhance your business.
Amen. Yeah, I've noticed that that has evolved just in my business in the last few years. I've noticed how we've evolved.
We get all this fancy, fancy equipment here.
Well, I just got all this today because I knew you were coming. You know what I mean? I couldn't have you in the old one, that I had before. I want to pull more. I want to pull more here. Obstacles. Starting a business, we're growing. Kind of
obstacles.
How do we handle obstacles? How would you generally tell somebody or encourage somebody that's going through some adversity in business?
When you're dealing with employees, or you're dealing with independent contractors, as the taxi cab company is concerned, you've got issues. That's why Uber's trying to do self-driving cars, so they can get rid of all those problems. And who are the problems? Drivers. Well, we're all human. That's the reason why, right?
Right.
So my advice is just continue to be the best that you can be, and move along with the technology the best as you can. Because in the early stages, Uber drivers and Lyft drivers were going. My drivers were going there because they offered them all these free and sign-on bonuses and all these things, but they didn't really realize that when they bought that new car, because they had this new revenue coming in, that in a few months that they would have all these miles on them. And they would have all this wear and tear, and now they have to start replacing that. So the value of that vehicle that they bought really got knocked down right off the get-go, because they had too many miles on a short period of time. So, these are the struggles when you're in business for yourself that you got to look at. So now what happens, as they realize that, and as they couldn't put tires on their car.
Why do you think that people that have, taken your system, they've kind of, learned from you, got the idea from you, all that, pulled out, started to do something else on their own, and didn't really pan out. The ones that it hasn't, panned. What do you think has made you successful over the long term, even dealing with some of those things? And that's natural. I've had that in my business. You've had that in yours. I think anybody's, probably had stuff like that.
Yeah. Just don't cut the corners. That's all. In other words, reinvest back into your business. Don't cut the corners. Don't put all the money in your own pocket. Put it back into the business and make sure that business is successful. You get a reputation, it stays with you, okay? You can ask anybody in this city about Star Limo. There's been a lot of copycats, All-Star, 5-Star, Gem-Star, I go on and on. And, it's sort of a compliment, but there's only one star.
Come on. Come on. That is a compliment. Yeah. That's the way you got to look at it.
That's right.
That's the perspective.
Right.
How about, you see you now, and you got a couple hundred different limousines and different branches of that company, and the best suits and shirts and glasses in town. This guy's so fly. He wears sunglasses in the restaurant, and he can pull it off and get away with it. I'm still not there yet.
Because in my world, the sun's always shining.
Come on. I love it. So other things before we move forward, how, when you deal with business growing pains, when you grow, you have a little bit of pain. It's just part of the process.
Absolutely.
You have to have more problems.
The unknown comes about, like accidents and breakdowns, and you're on the road and you got 30 people in a bus, and next thing you know, that breaks down. So
we're stuck.
How do you handle that? So these things you got to sort of plan ahead for, because they're going to happen. And I think this is why a lot of businesses fail. They don't think about that until it happens, But for me, I know it's going to happen. I mean, I've been prepared. I learned that in the military. Things I learned in the military is what really made me successful in this business. And when you say about dressing, I was the best spit shiner on boots you could ever see. And my buttons were polished. You wouldn't believe it. And I spent a lot of time doing that ever since I was a little kid, all right? I come from New Jersey, and I moved to Pittsburgh. My mother passed away. Lived with my grandmother, right? Well, when I went to school there...
How old were you when your mom passed away?
10 years old.
You lived with your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay.
And I moved to Pittsburgh and lived with my grandmother. My mother was remarried, so I was my stepfather. Never saw him after that. Never have.
All right.
And that just happened. So when I moved here, I had a uniform because I went to St. Joseph's School in Atlantic City, right outside Atlantic City. And I wore a shirt and I wore a tie. And when I came to school here, I went to St. Boniface right on East Street. It was the first grade school that I went to. And I was getting beat up all the time. I was just the wise guy. The girls like me, though. They said, a new guy, with the New Jersey accents here,
Yeah.
He wore the tie and all that. So I used to get beat up a lot back then.
That ain't happening over there now. It's Jimmy Wan's.
Yeah,
We roll. We're about 100 deep over there now.
There you go.
I know when I first started, I was obsessed with business, my business. I was just obsessed with it. What would be one word that you would think of that best described how you were when you first started?
Well, that's a hard thing to really come right out of my mind. I think I would have to think about that a little bit. It's a combination of things, Style seems to be one thing, and liking cars and being real up to date on things is what led me to really like the limousine business because, first of all, cars, everybody when they're younger likes cars, if you get your first car,
right.
But you always want that second, better and better.
Yeah.
And that's what's really, pushed me.
Ambitious.
Ambitious.
Wanting the next best thing, the next thing. Mm-hmm. How about, if I'm going through, we were in the middle of talking about, I'm growing this business. We're growing business. It has to be more problems with 200, 300 vehicles than one vehicle, two vehicles. But, different now, because it's built. You got people running it and helping it, all that stuff.
The technology's helped.
But the process between 1 and 301, okay, there's some things in here that happen in the middle that are make or break it. Those are the reasons why people don't make it, and some people wish that they made it. There's these things in between that happen and how you handle those things. How have you learned to, or how would you advise others to deal with the mental battles or the stress level that comes with growth? Because growth equals a little bit more stress, a little bit more people. That's what you're talking about, the Uber thing. To grow something, typically you got to deal with more people, and when you deal with more people, you deal with more problems, more issues, more frequently. Well,
there's a lot of unknowns. Let's say, for example, insurance is one of the unknowns. You never know what it's going to be. You get it for a year, and the industry may have some turnarounds in it. Companies come in and they come and they leave. So insurance is a real challenge in the transportation.
Your cars.
Cars.
Your
insuring
vehicles.
the cars.
Yeah.
So, these are the types of things that you really have to be up on. And
but how do you deal with the mental aspect of it? The mental stresses? What strategies have you taken over time to, here's how I've dealt with this problem happens mentally. We know you execute and handle the issue, but I think a lot of times people just get mentally caught up and they get stressed out and they say, so I'm throwing in the towel, or they get mentally trapped and so they get into a world of negativity or poor me or, those things.
That's the part I was talking about earlier when I said you don't quit. One door closes on you, another one's going to open, so you just need to take that. The Lord watches over us, and he has a plan, and I believe that plan makes things work for you. But you got to be determined, and you can't quit.
Love it. Love it. So what are your plans now for the future? You talked a little bit about it. What do you got going on now in the upcoming year or two?
Well, what I'm really excited about right now is inner city transportation. Inner city transportation is something that nobody really wants. Even Uber doesn't want it. They are sitting out at the airport now. It's that mentality of a cab driver hasn't changed, right? So inner city transportation, let's just say you want to go from Rivers Casino over to a hotel, the Westin Convention Hotel, for example, or the convention center, you want to go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, right? So you're waiting for an Uber. So now you got pollution, you got congestion with the Uber drivers, right? Or if you have a car, same thing, right? So I've developed a different type of transportation model that's been already strayed out for me, and that's bicycles that are electric powered that can haul 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. So that has already been, all the bicycle lanes, the mayor's created them for us already. So we have that's almost like having our own bus lanes, right? So these vehicles are going to operate within a city, within a couple miles, running around, right? And you don't have to have license plates for them. You know, there's some regulations I'm sure they're going to come out about it. But there's no oil changes, there's no pollution, there's nothing like that, right? So now, if you're going to a Pirate game and you want to go over to Ruth Chris or vice versa, you can get there trouble-free, without congestion, without waiting. You don't want a game lets out how long it takes to get your Uber driver or your limousine.
Absolutely.
My guys, people have to walk to the limousine holding area to get in a car.
That's right.
And if you got Uber, you know, you don't know what's going on. That's why that has created a whole new situation of renegades within the transportation industry, jitneys as we used to call them, because they're unlicensed. A lot of them, they just put a little sticker on the window and they're out there riding around, and the general public has no idea. You know, they see that sticker, and even though there's some technologies that make that, you know, safer, there's a lot of people, when they had a few drinks, they don't even care about that. All they want to do is get in the car. And that's how these things happen. It's electronic hitchhiking is actually what it is. Yeah. So I'm really excited about.
Do you have a name yet?
Yeah, Vet Cycle.
Vet Cycle.
Yeah,
okay. When are you breaking this thing out?
Hoping to. I just ordered 10 bikes just the other day, actually. So we should be. I have a couple in operation. I've been testing for last year.
Okay.
So we've been using it in Pittsburgh, and then I took it down to Florida and operated in the wintertime. Of course, we have some challenges with the weather conditions, but you know, in most aspects of this is going to be able to operate for about 7, 8, 10 months, depending. Look at this year. I mean, we had hardly any bad weather at all.
Yes.
And I'm going to do some real unique things to this vehicle. It's kind of proprietary, so I don't want to get into a whole lot of those things.
You got to leave a little bit.
Yeah. But, you know, the good news is...
Are they going to be able to carry weight? Like, you know, I got a friend of mine, Big Perm. He's about 450 pounds. Can we fit him on one of these, or that's a no-go?
Well, he won't be able to bring nobody else. But.
No, just so me and him got to go separate. I'll be behind him.
Well, I'm designing one with a little bit more power and a little bit more, and actually... I'm going to try to bring this together as a wheelchair accessible vehicle. There's a lot of people that are a little bit older, elderly like myself, okay, that want to enjoy the quality of life and see the riversides and so forth, bike trails. Well, you know, you really can't do that if you have any type of challenging issues, you know. So what I'm doing is going to enable that to come about. Now, I've done that with the Vet Taxi. We developed a vehicle that was built from the ground up, and that was called the MV1, Mobility Ventures. And you'll see about 30 of them that run around Pittsburgh. They got the eagle on the side. They're the vet taxis, right? Vehicles that are built in America, powered by American energy, that were natural gas, and driven by American heroes. That's the vet taxi model. And we're going to take that same model, and we're going to do the same thing with the bicycles. And hopefully, we'll be able to take this on a national level. I'm hoping at some point, maybe franchise it. Who knows? And again, these are things that people look at me and say, well, you know, at your age, why are you doing something like that? Well, that's what keeps me young.
Absolutely.
That's what keeps me motivated.
Absolutely.
It keeps my head together, right?
You know, I think I watch people that lose that ambition. It's like they're already dying a slow death. They're already dead. They just haven't made it official yet. There's just no date.
And even no matter how much money you make, you know, it's not just about the money. It's about the quality of life that you're living, and it's about. I mean, the success is obviously making that better, but you know, there's more things to life than just a pile of money. I mean, you can't tell that to everybody, you know?
Right?
But you know what I'm talking about.
What do you think about? You know, if somebody were to look at you now and not see you 30, 40 years ago, what advice would you give to yourself? You know, looking back 40 years ago or 50 years ago, you know, just a younger version of you, you know, what advice would you have, or what would you say to that individual?
Enjoy the ride. I mean, you know, coming along, you know, last time I realized it, I was in my 30s, and here I am now in my 70s, right? So I wasn't thinking about that. Those things were passing me up, right?
Yeah.
Even though I enjoyed them, and I have some great memories and some bad memories as well, but the situation is, as you're growing up and you're a younger person, especially if you're getting business, enjoy yourself. And just do the right thing. Always be honorable. Always be a gentleman. Always take care of everybody as if take care of people the best you can. For me, it's taking care of my veteran buddies, my brothers and sisters. That's what's for me. That's what I want to do. I want to create opportunities for veterans and help them, because a lot of them are struggling with issues. PTSD is one of the main things that everybody is suffering with now. And back in the day when I served, it was shell shock. Well, we didn't even know what PTSD was, right? But over the years, with the new medical advice and all that, things turned around a little bit.
Is there any charities that are close to your heart, for stuff like that?
Well, there's a couple of them. Operation Proud to Serve You Again is a veteran charity, which actually I have a friend of mine in Reno, Nevada, who has started this nonprofit 501c3. That's one of the charities that we're hoping to really sponsor and really get involved, because it helps veterans get into start their own business. And not just transportation, right? Any type of business that they want to start, and give them the opportunities and show them some of the things that you just asked me today, how to start their own business.
You like to dress well, we've established that a few times today on air. How important do you think that is, or has played a role in your success level at all? Do you believe that
extremely important?
You do?
Oh, absolutely. In order to be successful, you got to look successful, in my view. I mean, if you look good, people are attracted to you. They want to do business with you. I mean, if you got all these different things, I know there's style involved in this. Back in the day, I had the style stuff too, but you got to really tone yourself down when you're trying to deal with the public, because they have different opinions, because you have different age groups. And these age groups are going to have different opinions of what you represent.
Right. So you think the dress and all of that stuff does play a role
absolutely.
in success?
Absolutely, okay. Yeah. If you're in the limousine business, you don't want to be wearing clothes as if you were, in a garbage business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. I do. So, I'll just close out and, say just first of all, congrats on all your success. And, you're one of those people that when I see you and when other people see you, they just smile. You have a gravitating personality. And I think everybody that knows you has fallen in love with that, that ambition, the way that you carry yourself, your heart, the way that you treat people, even looking back, a couple years ago, it's, we're going on almost 2 years since this happened, but, you were one of the people I asked, I had a charity event here and, I asked you, would you sponsor and donate the limousine ride, from the office and without hesitation, you were there, and I've been to your house once and we see each other, but it's not like I was best friends with you for 30 years. And so I just, I appreciate your heart, of the person that you are. Where would, I know you're old school, so how would somebody that wants to follow you or get in touch with you for your business or anything that you're doing, is there any information that you have for somebody that would want to reach out to you and do business with you, or any way to get a hold of
Sure,
you?
but first of all, what I got to say is you are a perfect example of a young guy, young entrepreneur, just like I was when I was growing up. And I really have to commend you for that, because when I see you somewhere, the first thing I see is I'll check out your style, right? And that is what attracted me to you from the get-go, because that's the kind of person that I am. So this is what happens. So, if you're young and you're in business, keep the style, keep the motivation, be the best that you can be. And if you want to get a hold of Star Transportation Group, I'll get back to the original question now. You just call our direct line number, which is 724-776-0044.
Say that number one more time.
724-776-0044. That's a direct line to the Star Transportation Group. Any division that you want, you can be directed from there.
Appreciate it. Love it. Well, keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight. Let me know I can help you and support you in your mission. And thanks for joining us here at the G.R.I.N.D Studios, Mr. Delucia.
Thank you so much for
having
inviting me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.